I had to do this to survive. I had to wire my brain differently, and I had to brainwash myself. And I guess maybe it's not even quotations. I guess I did brainwash myself. Hi, it's Paulina, and welcome back to the My Best Self podcast, where we become the best version of ourselves. So if you read the title, you might be like, what is this girl about to talk about? Like, this girl is crazy. What do you mean you brainwashed yourself? Well, I'm going to explain to you. I never realized that I brainwashed myself until recently. One day I sat down and I was like, wait, am I brainwashing myself? Like, is this what's actually going on? I think I've been brainwashing myself for years, but it works. And to brainwash yourself in this sense is literally to change your perspective, but in such a way that it's like you're forcing it onto yourself, but in a healthy way. Okay, it's healthy still. Okay, I know forcing something sounds kind of negative, but it's not negative, I promise you. I'm going to talk a little bit about my childhood so that you can see the big picture and maybe you can understand a little bit better. So growing up, I did face a lot of trauma. I faced a lot of, and I don't really openly talk about this, I did grow up having to go through a lot of abuse. Not just physical, but a lot of emotional abuse. This was very traumatizing. And when you're a child, you have to remember you're like a sponge. I'm sure you've all heard this. Whatever you're being told and whatever ideas are being pushed onto you, you're taking that in and you're believing it because that's your first experience here in the world. So as a child, when you go through a lot of emotional abuse, it causes you to have this certain type of worldview, and it causes low self-esteem. It causes you not to believe that you're good enough, not to believe that you're worthy. That throughout my whole childhood and then teenage years caused a lot of problems for me with things like depression, anxiety. Eventually, at the end of my teenage years, I got diagnosed with PTSD. For many years, I struggled with depression. I struggled with these negative thoughts constantly in my mind. I struggled with seeing the goodness in the world because I had been subjected to that certain way of viewing life. I had been subjected to being very negative, and I grew up thinking and believing that I wasn't good enough. And since I believed that so heavily, that is what was reflected back at me. Like I've talked about before in a previous episode, we have our reticular activating system, which basically, long story short, shows you more of what you focus on. So since I was carrying all of those negative beliefs and I was really truly feeling like I wasn't good enough, I was shown that more so, and I had more proof now of not being good enough. And essentially, when you have all of these very deeply rooted beliefs and you've been through a lot of traumas, it's hard to take yourself out of it. And I did want to mention, I did go to therapy. I did, do certain things, but therapy helped me more so with certain coping skills, especially for PTSD. I think therapy helped me feel heard, and there are different types of therapy. And I definitely think if you've been through trauma, I think that it's really important to address that. Obviously, it's a privilege to be able to go to therapy, but there are different types of therapies, or even just learning about what may be going on inside of you is very important. Especially after reading certain books, I realized that there are traumas that cause all of these like different wires in your brain and different parts of your brain to act and interact in different ways that they wouldn't have normally interacted in before. I don't want to mislead you. I think it's always important to deal with the root cause of things. But doing what I say in this video can help you alongside that, or it can be maybe the first step, or it can be the second step that you take. So I realized I really did have a negative view on the world. I felt like the world was against me sometimes. And one of the only people that helped me feel like that wasn't true, and I'm very thankful to her, and I know for a fact that I wouldn't be the person I am if it wasn't for her, but she really inspired me. And it was my grandma, and thanks to her, I still had that sliver of hope, and I had that trust and faith in other human beings and in connection. And so my grandma always taught me that if you don't laugh at the world will laugh at you. And just those words are simply a mindset shift. It's simply a shift in your mindset. And that's what I want to talk about today. How can you shift your mindset? How can you brainwash yourself? I literally brainwashed myself. So I started learning about different things, like the power of our thoughts, for example. And when I started learning about this, I started to realize that our life truly is nothing but a reflection of our thoughts. And I've been reading this book that I really, really recommend, and it's called How to Know a Person. And it explained it very beautifully. So this is not even just me saying these things, right? And this is not a conspiracy of, oh, your thoughts and your beliefs create your reality. It's not. This is scientifically proven. I was going to just explain it, but I'm going to read you a little bit so that I can explain it, because it's the perfect way to explain this. It's the perfect way to explain how everything in your life is about perception. But what creates your perception is your past experiences, your beliefs, your thoughts. All of these things together create your perception. And in this book, it tells you a person is a point of view. Literally, when I was reading this, I was on the Stairmaster. I recently started reading on the Stairmaster. If you hate cardio like me, do it while you're reading. I swear it makes it go by so much faster. Like, don't get me wrong, I was huffing and puffing, but I was reading my book and I was deeply into it that I didn't want to stop. And for me not to want to stop doing cardio is insane. So let me find this for you. A person is a point of view. Every person you meet is a creative artist who takes the events of life and over time creates a personal way of seeing the world. Like any artist, each person takes the experiences of a lifetime and integrates them into a complex representation of the world. That representation, the subjective consciousness that makes you you, integrates your memories, attitudes, beliefs, convictions, traumas, loves, fears, desires, and goals into your own distinct way of seeing. That representation helps you interpret all the ambiguous data your senses pick up, helps you predict what's going to happen, helps you discern what really matters in a situation, helps you decide how to feel about any situation, helps shape what you want, who you love, what you admire, who you are, and what you should be doing at any given moment. Your mind creates a world with beauty and ugliness, excitement, tedium, friends, and enemies, and you live within that construction. People don't see the world with their eyes, they see it with their entire life. And then another quote it says is, the mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. And this is very powerful to know, to understand the way that our brain works. It says, perception, the neuroscientist Anil Seth writes, is a generative, creative act. It is an action-oriented construction rather than a passive registration of an objective external reality. Or, as the neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett notes, scientific evidence shows that what we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell are largely simulations of the world, not reactions to it. Most of us non-neuroscientists are not aware of all this constructive activity because it happens unconsciously. It's as if the brain is composing vast, complex novels, and to the conscious mind, it feels like no work at all. I know this is a lot to take in, and I had to reread it a couple times. Basically, what it's saying is that our mind, our subconscious mind, is constantly working behind the scenes. We know this, right? Our subconscious mind is constantly working behind the scenes, and it's working to create a picture of the world that we see. So everything that you see around you, it's working to create an opinion on it, basically, and give it some type of meaning based off of everything that it already knows. And what it already knows is everything that you've learned and you've experienced throughout life, and everything that your subconscious mind has picked up on. And this is all gonna make sense in a second, and we're gonna go back to the brainwashing part of this video. But I just really want to give you this background, and I really want to drill in this point. I think this is so powerful to know. It gives you a way to take your power back when you've been powerless in other situations. And the book goes on to give a little story, for example, of how our brain is constantly predicting things and how that shapes how we experience the world. So it gives an example of, let's say I'm person A and there's a person B. Person B comes up to me on the street asking me for directions. They ask me for directions, but right after they ask me, two people walk across us holding up a door. So I'm not able to see person B for a split second. During that second, and this is like studies that they've done and tests that they've done, during that second, person B has switched out with one of the people that was holding the door. So now I'm standing in front of a different person B. I'm standing in front of a different person. And they've done a lot of studies on this and shown that most people, most of the time, are not going to notice that these two people even switched, because your mind is not actively looking for that. Your mind wants to make predictions. So you're not thinking that, oh, this person is going to switch with someone else. Or you're not even, that's not a thought that's coming across your mind. People will not notice that they are now talking to a completely different stranger, and they will continue to give them directions. What I learned from this is that the way that I'm viewing life is nothing but that. It's nothing but a collection of all of my life that I've lived thus far. And this connects to any situation in life, and I really hope that I'm making sense. These are topics that I haven't really discussed very deeply before. So bear with me. I hope that this is, flowing as well as possible. And if it's not, I won't be offended if you let me know, hey, I was getting really lost with everything you were saying. Even though it might hurt my feelings a little bit, I might be a little disappointed in myself. I'm gonna, be glad that you brought it up, and now I can do better. Anyways, now knowing all of this information, I want to give you a scenario. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and you have the most amazing, perfect day of your life. Let's say you go to the grocery store and everybody is treating you so kindly. People are going out of their way for you. Everyone is smiling at you and being kind to you. And somebody decides to pay for your groceries. And then let's say you randomly get like the best promotion at work, or you randomly get a huge opportunity that you've been wanting, literally lands in your lap. And then you go to the drive-thru, you're picking up a little coffee or something, and the person in front of you pays for your coffee. And your day could not be going any more perfectly. Maybe you go out with friends and you guys are bonding and connecting and everything is perfect. Your day could not be more perfect. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and you have that perfect day. And it's just like you feel like the luckiest person in the world. You literally feel like, wow, my world is so beautiful. What if I told you that you can make yourself shift into that mindset without having to experience that perfect day? What if I told you that in order to experience days like that, which I'm not saying that you're gonna have a crazy perfect day every single day, but I am saying that it is possible to have so many good things happen for you and for your life to be very beautiful. What if I told you that that is completely possible, and it starts within your mind, and it starts with your beliefs, and it starts by choosing to believe that you are lucky, choosing to believe you are worthy, choosing to believe that you're good enough, choosing to believe that things do work out for you. Because when you have a positive perception of reality, that's when you're able to actually notice the good things that happen to you. And that's when more good things simply happen to you. I am telling you, as somebody who has done this, as somebody who has been extremely depressed, as somebody who has been at extremely low points in life, where I saw no meaning, where I was just literally destroyed, and I lived life that way, and I was so comfortable in those feelings too. I was so comfortable in the sadness, and it's something that you don't really realize, but sometimes you get so comfortable with these uncomfortable feelings that anything other than that is just, it doesn't feel right. Like, you want to be sad, you don't feel. I literally remember being a teenager and being really depressed. And then maybe for a little while, I started switching into seeing life a little bit differently, or I started feeling a little happier. And I vividly remember myself saying, like, this feels weird. I miss the sadness. I miss the emptiness. And now that I'm realizing this, I'm like, wow, you get so comfortable in those feelings. But you can also choose better. You can choose to want better. So I started to literally affirm to myself that I was good enough. And I started to say it and to believe it because I wanted to believe it, because I wanted to give myself that chance, because I was tired. I was so tired of being tired, and I was tired of being so comfortable in my discomfort. And so I started to believe that. I started to tell myself, no, you are good enough. I started to hear, when I would hear those thoughts, I would switch them around. Wouldn't dwell in those thoughts. When those thoughts came to my mind, like, oh, you're not worthy, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, I would affirm the opposite. I am worthy. I am lovable. I am, so on and so forth. And when I started to do this, my life slowly started to change. And I started to have better people around me and people who reflected this back to me. And it all goes back to our thoughts. When you have that perception of the world, of I'm not good enough and I attract these bad people and this is what life is. That was my perception. So it was coming all back to me. When I started to switch that perception, when I started to switch my point of view, my life started to switch as well. You have to first switch what you feel inside, because you can't expect to wake up to that perfect day when on the inside you don't feel deserving of something like that and you truly don't believe that it's possible. It doesn't work like that. That's backwards. You have to first internally decide that you are good enough. So that's what I did. And I literally brainwashed myself. Like, that's literally it. You brainwash yourself. I would say these things and it started to show up. And then now I started to have proof that I was good enough. And I started to attract people that showed that to me. For example, in high school, I had a really great best friend. I had a really close friend. We were best friends. And she really showed me that I can be very loved and very cared for by other people. And she showed me how I had so much beauty inside of myself that I never really saw before. She was so sweet towards me. She would go out of her way for me. And that started to happen when I started to be kinder to myself. And then as time went on, eventually I met a really amazing guy and we got into a relationship, and we're not together now, but it was a beautiful relationship. Just things didn't work out, but it was a beautiful relationship that really showed me too and proved to me you are worthy of love. And there is love out there for you. And these things started to happen when I switched my mindset. I don't think that these things would have showed up for me if I didn't decide to switch my mentality. And I'm not saying you have to perfectly be in that mentality where you 100% are like, I love myself so much and I am so worthy and I truly believe it with all of my being and all my core. Because when this started happening for me, I wasn't fully in that mentality. I was still, I'm barely now, I can say now, this mentality, it's there and it's engraved now. But obviously when you start to switch your mindset after years of having this certain programming, it's like when you're switching it up, when you're going into your brainwashing phase or whatever, and you're changing things, you're not gonna immediately fully believe these things 100%. And that's completely normal. Like, think about it. These are things that have been ingrained in you. And sometimes for years since you were a child. So it's not going to be something that you just one day say, I'm good enough, and then you believe it. And all of those thoughts and all those situations that proved to you that you weren't good enough, they're not just going to disappear. It's like it takes time. And that's why I call it brainwashing, because I had to really drill this into myself throughout time. And you have to really practice it actively. And it's the same thing as let's say you want to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, you're not going to expect to lose 100 pounds in one day. And you're not going to expect to eat healthy for one day and then lose weight. No. So how are you going to expect to be nice to yourself for one day, or to affirm good things about your life for one day, and then boom, everything else went out the window? Suddenly this very secure and confident version of yourself. That's not how it's going to work. When you're trying to lose weight, what do? Maybe you go on a diet. When you're trying to reprogram your mind, when you're trying to get rid of all the negative thoughts that you're constantly having throughout the day. Fun fact, most of our thoughts that we have throughout the day are thoughts that we have literally every single day. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention and you'll see how these thoughts repeat over and over. What are you going to do? You can go on a diet too. There's a thing called a mental diet. It's just about paying more attention to your thoughts and redirecting your thoughts. When you're actively doing this, you will notice a huge difference. And this is what I did, and this is what I do, and this has helped me tremendously. Say your affirmations, whatever it is that you're struggling with. If you're struggling with low self-worth, and I feel like it's very common, that's why I'm making it a big point in this video, but anything you're struggling with, but that's the example that we're using right now. I am so worthy of love. I am more than enough. I would literally go to sleep telling myself this as I fell asleep. And then there was a point when I felt very insecure. I would go to sleep and wake up telling myself, I am so beautiful. I am so beautiful. I am gorgeous. I am so pretty. I have beautiful eyes. I have this. And I would go, and I know to some people it may sound crazy. And I'm going to have to meet you where you're at. Maybe it's crazy to you, but I promise you, if you do this, you will notice a change, but you have to believe that it's going to work for you. But the reason, the science behind it is now we understand how our subconscious mind is constantly running in the background of our life, right? Our subconscious mind is actually open as we're falling asleep and right when we wake up. So if you do this as you're falling asleep and right when you wake up, now you're not only saying these phrases consciously, you are feeding it to your subconscious mind that is running in the background throughout your whole life. So just think about how powerful that is. And I'm sharing it with you because I've done it, and I've literally went from, like I said, the lowest points ever into feeling happy, to feeling genuinely happy and grateful for my life. And the best part about doing this with your subconscious mind is your subconscious mind then wants to prove that things are true. And so you will literally start noticing things that never happened before, or you will start, I'll give you an example. One of the things that I wanted, and I would tell myself, is like, I have a really beautiful body. I have the perfect body. And I'm working towards my dream body, but I've come a really long way. And so when I started to affirm that to myself, I noticed myself going harder at the gym. I noticed myself making better choices when it came to my eating habits. And it's like your subconscious mind wants this for you. So then it starts to work in the background so that you're able to reach these things. So that's how I brainwashed myself. And I also used gratitude. And I always preach gratitude because it is the most powerful thing in this world. I swear to you, being grateful will take you so far in life. Like the book said, our mind can make heaven of hell or hell of heaven. So when we're grateful, it naturally leads us to notice the good things, and naturally leads our perception into what is good here. What should I be thankful for? And something that I think puts things into perspective really well is the thought of somebody out there in the world would love to switch places with you right now. And I think that says so much. And it's easy to compare. If you've ever seen that one picture and it's like a guy on a bike and he's looking at a guy in a car and he's like, wow, I wish I had that. Or no, I think it's like a man in a wheelchair and he's looking at someone walking. And then it's like someone walking and looking at a guy on a bicycle. And then it's the person on the bicycle staring at someone with a car. And then it's the person in a maybe older car staring at the person with the newest, nicest car. And it just goes to show how much you can take things for granted. And something that can be just whatever to you may be something that can make a huge difference in someone else's life. And so I think that just puts things into perspective very well. And that's the thing, it can always get worse. That I've heard that in a movie, and it's so true. And when you think, things couldn't get any worse, they get worse. But I truly think it's because when we focus on the bad things continue to happen. And when we focus on the good, more good comes into our life, and we're able to just simply look at the good things, because sometimes there can be good things there for us that we don't really even look at, and it's like we're missing out on something that we could be very grateful for. So I brainwashed myself with gratitude, and it's to the point where things can't really go wrong in my life. Things can go a little weird, they can, but my perception is literally you know what? I know that things are happening for me and not to me. Whatever I'm going through, even if it's something hard that I'm going through, whatever it may be, if I'm going through a difficult situation, hey, this is a lesson. That's my perspective. If something didn't work out for some reason, for me, it's like there's something better out there for me. Let's say I'm running late somewhere. I don't think this is so bad and then just let it ruin my whole day. No, I think, you know what? I am being protected from something, and I'm not meant to be at this place at this exact time, and things happen for a reason. What can I do? I'm late. I'm not going to be hung up on it. If anything, I'm being protected. I truly have just switched my mindset into thinking this way, and that is the life that I live now. Because I decided that, now that is the life I live. Don't get me wrong. I still have my moments, but I am now in a place where my dominant feeling is usually a good feeling. And my dominant thought patterns are thoughts of it's okay, things happen for a reason, and so on and so forth. And don't get me wrong though, and I just want to say, I know that I don't know if this maybe sounds like toxic positivity. I just want to say, I still feel my emotions. I know I'm not going to have a positive emotion every single day. And that is the duality of life. Just like there's good, there's also bad. And I still feel, I cry, I get angry sometimes, I get upset, and I allow myself to feel those things. But I allow myself to feel them. And then I also allow myself and give myself grace to let go. And when you adopt a mindset like this, you just start to see how everything in your life is simply what you see it to be from your point of view, from your perspective. So why not try to make the most out of your perspective? Why not try to work towards giving yourself that? And some people don't have to work really hard towards that. Some people, like I know people who haven't gone through trauma, who have had a very happy childhood, a very happy life. And it's interesting to see the way their brain works. It's like they work differently than a lot of people. And it's because it's very common for people to go through traumas and for people to go through abuse and all of these things, especially in their childhood. I've met people, like I have a friend who he has never experienced like any of these things. And it's like their brain is naturally wired in this way. It's naturally wired to think positive or to be happy. And so when your brain is not naturally wired that way, what I found, literally, I had to do this to survive. I had to wire my brain differently, and I had to brainwash myself. And I guess maybe it's not even quotations. I guess I did brainwash myself because, you know, after going through certain experiences and just letting it frame your whole worldview, it's like in order to undo those things, you do have to take an active part in that. Honestly, what I've done, and it has truly changed my life. Like, not only has it changed my life as in the way that I view things, but it's I don't know if it's because I view things a certain way now or what, but things sometimes in my life do seem magical. They do seem like, wow, everything is perfect. I feel like God is literally looking out for me in the way that things happen in my life. Like I'll give you an example. This is a very random example. All right, guys, sorry, the camera died. Anyways, I'm gonna share a little strange story. This story is not anything insane, but it's just something that helps me understand that if I believe that everything is going to work out, then it's going to work out. So this was like a year ago already, but basically I had to ship out 2 boxes. So I had FedEx, or I don't know if it was UPS, FedEx, one of those delivery companies. I had them. I filled out something online so that they could come to my house to pick up 2 boxes that I had to ship out. Well, my apartment, not my house. And so I filled that out, and then like the next day I was like, wait, I didn't include a phone number. I didn't include an email. I didn't include anything. I was just sitting there thinking about it like, wait, I messed up. And then I decided, no, I'm not going to stress. Everything works out for me. Everything works out for me. And I started to believe that everything works out for me. Everything works out for me perfectly. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to stress out. And so the day came that they were supposed to pick up the boxes, and the delivery window the pickup window was from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., something like that. It was a pretty big pickup window. And that's part of the reason why I was initially a little stressed. Like, well, how am I supposed to know? What am I going to do? The day comes, tell me why I completely, like, girl, I don't know how this even happens. I don't really ship things out often. I completely forgot, I have to actually put a shipping label on the boxes. I didn't even have a shipping label on the boxes. It was just 2 boxes, like boxed up and ready to go. So I head to the store, print out shipping labels, and then come back to my apartment. And I had planned, I'm just gonna put them on in the car. So when I left my apartment to go buy the shipping supplies, I forgot my scissors and my tape. So I get back home and I'm like, I have to go all the way upstairs, get my scissors and my tape. So I do that. I come back, I grab my scissors and my tape so I can cut the shipping label and tape it on. So I'm in the back seat putting on the shipping label. I finished doing the second one. There was 2 boxes. I finished with the second one. I kid you not. I look up. The freaking FedEx worker is literally standing like right across from me. He's literally standing in the garage. First of all, to get inside the garage, you need a key or you need someone to open it for you. Maybe someone came out of the garage and then he came in. I don't know how it even happened because he was just there. And the FedEx truck wasn't even there. So I don't even know how that happened. I kid you not, as soon as I was finished putting the second label on, he was just there. It worked out literally perfectly. And this all happened at like 10 in the morning. So my thing is, what are the chances of this happening? I just don't believe in coincidences. Like, what are the chances? This worked out because I wanted it to work out. And when you just start to believe and think this way, just things happen like this. Things that you wouldn't really know how to explain. It's just like very random. So I just wanted to share that story. It's a random little story, but to me, it always just leaves me just thinking and believing, wow, I need to continue this positive thinking. And yeah, I really do think perception is everything. Sometimes you have to brainwash yourself a little bit in this life, and it has gotten me very far, so I definitely recommend. But yeah, guys, that is gonna be all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that it made sense and that it resonated with somebody that needed to hear it. And I know sometimes certain messages are not made for everyone. I know that there's sometimes a certain time when a message is gonna hit somebody. And so I just hope this hits the right person. And yeah, thank you all for listening. I love you. I appreciate you for being here. And I will see you all in next week's episode at 10 a.m. PST. If you're on Spotify, make sure to rate the podcast if you're able to. If you're enjoying the episodes, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week.